YouTube Bozic going the Goat House is back. After week 13 of the NFL, breaking down some of the games, giving you my takeaways like we do every single Monday. Weekly NFL coverage here at the Goat House, so make sure you join us for all that content. Head over our channel, check out the recent videos. Like, subscribe to notifications on me, much appreciated. Check us out on Twitter, talking during live games. News, rumors, and updates. There's some roster moves going on right now. Baker Mayfield's available now, so interesting stuff. Check us out on Twitter. Link pinned in the comments for that. And anything else you're looking for. So our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GOAT for some discounts. Links down below. Check it out. Thursday game real quick. Bills, Patriots. Really wasn't much of a game. Maybe a little early in this one. But the Bills take care of business despite missing some big-time key players, Deion Dawkins, Von Miller. I know everybody's kind of missing key players, but it's still kind of impressive. And they take care of business 24-10. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, solid game, obviously, from them. James Cook got going, so that was great. But, the Patriots, usually when they struggle against the Bills or teams like this, it's because mainly, number one, Josh Allen with his legs is scrambling a little bit too much. In this game, he really wasn't. And, is that a good or a bad thing? Mainly bad. I think Allen really isn't a problem scrambling in a game like this, and you still kind of get your ass beat a little bit. It's pretty tough. I mean, they're too focused on that. It kind of opened everything else up a little bit, perhaps. Can't put it on the defense, though. They just didn't score enough points, obviously. So, wasn't in love with the play call. I mean, they just didn't have enough. I think it's a theme for a lot of teams offensively this week. You just didn't have enough juice, didn't have enough power, their best offensive weapon was a rookie slot corner, Marcus Jones, on basically one play. I mean, Stevenson was pretty effective. He only got the ball 10 times. They were playing from behind the whole game. We see Mac Jones frustrated, so it's just not enough from the Patriots, mainly their offense. But yeah, the surprising thing was they actually slowed Allen from scrambling a little bit, but they were still able to figure out ways. I guess that's just the Buffalo Bills being good and the Patriots just not being there yet, not having enough quite yet. So they're starting to play better teams, and they're starting to lose now, so that's the tough part. They did have a good offensive showing a week ago, which was maybe a little surprising. Maybe the Vikings defense is just on the weaker side there. It definitely is, but so tough one for the Patriots, big one for the Bills there. You had to go in there and win that game if you're either team, so that's big. Steelers and Falcons, kind of another Falcons game. Last week would they lose to the Commanders 13-19 and 16-19 in this one. They had an opportunity at the end against the Commanders. Not as good of an opportunity at the end of this one, but it does end with an interception, Minkah Fitzpatrick. And it's the same story. Like I said it for the Patriots, I'm going to say it for a few other teams this week. It just seemed to be a common theme almost that, like in this case, the Falcons just did not have enough offensively. And we've kind of said that throughout the year. Like Mariota, he isn't like a god-awful quarterback, but he just doesn't have enough. Like, he can escape some pressure. He can make some flashy plays here and there, but he just doesn't have enough. Not consistent enough throwing the ball. It doesn't help that he doesn't have the best weapons out there. But he kind of does at the same time. I know he doesn't have a consistent separator right now, so maybe if he was missing something, it'd probably be that. But obviously, Pitts, and Drake London's been a solid rookie, and Patterson's a bit of a do-it-all. Got some running backs, but I guess they could use a consistent separator, but doesn't mean Mariota's the answer then. But again, just back to it, it's just not enough offensively, not enough firepower, I suppose, for the Falcons. The Steelers defense has a very solid game here, getting pressure, making key stops. For the Steelers, Pickett, kind of the same thing the last couple weeks. You could see he's showing some signs here and there that maybe he's getting a little bit better, but he still has some missed throws that you definitely would like to have back there. Obviously, we saw it last week. Missed Pickens after a good route in the end zone, and this week he had a fade that was just very badly underthrown. I believe it's to Deontay Johnson, but maybe some more points if you just hit some of these throws here. But maybe slightly getting better here over the last few weeks. But the Steelers are definitely getting better. Obviously, get some of their key guys back, and that halfway point of the year when they were still kind of everything was down, I called them maybe a sneaky team to look out for the rest of the year, and they've been winning. They've been finding ways to win some games here. So they just pulled this one off. Yeah, it's good to see Najee Harris getting going recently as well. Coming off that injury, I thought he had a pretty effective day. But bottom line, with the Steelers played tougher on defense. The Falcons just didn't have enough, and this one is really nothing else to that. Knew it would kind of be a close game, 3-point game here. I think that's what I had. I just realized that. I think I had 20-17. If I'm not mistaken, 19-16, so pretty much it's kind of what we expected here in this one. Minkah Fitzpatrick ends the game with the interception, so it was a good play by him, obviously. Packers-Bears, the Bears are on a six-game losing streak, and a lot of those games, they could have had, though, at the same time. Maybe the season doesn't have to be as much of a disaster. Not all of those games, the 6-game losing streak, but a lot of them, most of the game, they have enough offense, or they have a lead, or look like they're in the driver's seat, and they can't really figure out a way to close them out in the end or in the biggest moments. So, and this was one where it almost looked like they were not only beat the Packers, but they were going to dominate them. Things just were not going well for the Packers. They're taking shots down the field on 4th and short and 3rd and short, and refusing to run the ball again, which is kind of why they went on a losing streak kind of early in the year. I don't know if that's a LaFleur anti-run thing or if Rodgers is changing the play too often. It's a little weird, but Bears were definitely in the driver's seat in this game. The Packers kind of adjusted and figured things out. It's kind of the story against the Bears. Teams kind of adjust for what's working for the Bears, which usually is kind of the field's running ability there, and let's figure out ways to make him throw, keep him in the pocket, and let's adjust on both sides of the ball. While there's little adjustments from the Bears, it's kind of let's just stay the course, keep going with what's happening. So, yeah, there's really no panic for Chicago, because I think people are know they're in a rebuild stage and they want a good draft pick, and that makes sense. But there are some questions still, why can't they close out games? Do they have any pieces that are yes, I'm good with that piece for the future? Why aren't the coaches making the right adjustments? So even though they're in that rebuild stage, am I feeling good about what they have for the future? It's hard to say that right now, that is the case. So I think there's a lot of work to do there. So it is, even though it's not the end of the world, the Bears are losing, it is kind of tough, because what are the right pieces for the future? It's hard to identify any that are yes, this is the piece. In my opinion, I don't know. Justin Fields, incredible runner. A highlight reel, obviously. I said it a couple weeks ago after the Falcons game. I kind of got attacked, but it's just, I would like to see more in the passing game, especially in the moments where you want to see your quarterback find ways to win, from the pocket in the pass game, crunch time. I want to see more. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So this game, once again, couldn't close it out. Jair Alexander makes a big time interception in a big time moment, and the Bears will get the ball back, and there's another turnover there at the end. So they're just not finding ways in the end. And I know they don't have the most talent in the world, but I don't know. I don't think. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears are open Ryan Poles to get better at any position on this roster going forward. That's just kind of the feeling I get. So, and the Packers find a way to win against division rival and kind of stay alive here, obviously. But good adjustments in the second half. They were a little stubborn, with running the ball in short yardage situations, and like they have earlier in years. So that was tough. But Christian Watson continues to get going. Phone's going off like crazy. I think just a lot of injuries this week that were very unfortunate. But yeah, the Packers really, it's what it was. They adjusted. They started running the ball a little bit more using A.J. Dillon in the second half, and Christian Watson's been a touchdown machine. They get him at the end, kind of to almost ice the game on the Christian Watson end around there, so you see the speed there. But Alexander steps up, makes that interception was huge, obviously. So, the Packers find a way and stay alive here in this game, in this season. So, 28-19. Jags and Lions. Lions continue to roll, continue to look impressive, kind of like they improved somewhere over the last few weeks. So they had a 3-game winning streak in there before losing to the Bills, but they even played the Bills pretty well. So it definitely looked like they improved at some point. And and they destroy the Jaguars in this game. So that was big time for the Lions here in this one. But this game didn't need to be like this. If you're the Jags fan, you probably know, like, it didn't really need to be this painful, this bad. I think the way this game started, I mean, Travis Etienne gets a pretty decent run, but he fumbles on it. Lions go and score, and the Jags are going down the field right away again. Like I would say in this game, Zay Jones drops a freebie, a free first down, maybe more, set him up for a touchdown, and they end up having to get a field goal. So I think those two moments, Etienne fumble and the Jones drop, I think just kind of killed momentum and dug themselves in a hole. But the Lions just kept scoring. When they needed to execute, they went and executed and kept scoring. So if the Jags wouldn't have made those mistakes, I think the game would have been much closer. It would have started a lot different. Would it have been super close, or would the Jags won? I'm not really saying that, because either way the Lions were executing. But I think how you start is big, and I think a game like this is kind of proof the Jags kind of dug themselves a hole and had some mistakes. Lions, but yeah, they execute when they need to. It's good to see Swift kind of getting going a little bit more. Amon-Ra St. Brown has just been insane for them. Goff was very efficient in this game. Obviously, Lions defense been stepping up till they make plays. They make a lot more plays than they were or weren't earlier in the year. So just going out, and the Jags have, they've been playing pretty decent defense this year. It's an underrated defense. For the Lions to go put up 40 is pretty huge, and for their defense to stop them to 14 and make some big time plays, that's also pretty huge. So the Lions, they're a tough team to play every week. Despite the record, them being the Lions and the record not looking that great, they're a tough team to play each week. So very much impressed with them. They'll play the Vikings, who they almost had last time around. So that could be a winnable game for the Lions. Should be a really good one. Looking forward to that. So Lions win 40-14. Very impressive outing. This was like a 50-50 game to me. I picked the Lions. The Jaguars were favored. Don't forget this. They were favored by 1 in this game. Which is a little surprised by that, but and it didn't end up being much of that 50-50 game. The Lions go out there, start hot, Jaguars don't, and the Lions dominate this game. So impressed to say the least for the Lions recently. Jets and Vikings, another Vikings game, another wild Vikings game, of course. It looked like it was going to be an ass beating early on. I mean, it was 20-3. Vikings were playing well on both sides of the ball actually early. And it kind of felt like maybe game over, but Vikings said, hold on a sec, let's do our thing here. And the Jets came fighting back, obviously, and the Jets had a pretty damn good opportunity throughout the game, but especially at the end to not only score, but that would win the game. The defense played very well in the second half. The Vikings only scored one time. They had 20 at halftime. They finished with 27, so only one more score. But, yeah, the Jets had their opportunities there. I guess just not having Mike White's looked better than – he was productive in this game, but he's looked better than Zach Wilson, that's for sure. But, I guess just not having enough there at the quarterback position perhaps, and Berrios kind of let them down, maybe a little bit too much focused on him when you have guys like Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, which Elijah Moore could have had a big-time catch late in the game, and I don't know what he was doing with his feet, but that should have been routine 2 feet in. When I see guys spread their legs like that far apart in a situation where they should be the tightest, don't love that. So I don't know what Moore was doing there. That really isn't his game, but I expect NFL receivers to be better in situations like that. He's more so get him the ball underneath or in the middle of the field, or let him use his speed. But so some tough mistakes in there. Garrett Wilson was fantastic. Vikings were stopping a run for most of this game, but then Donovan Knight got going. They had these big plays that got them into the red zone, but only one touchdown for the Jets, which was a 4th down they barely got. They actually had to review to give it to him, and which he was in. But the point is just that's really what the game was. Field goals instead of touchdowns is what lost the Jets the game. If they were getting touchdowns on all those or most of those, they not only would have won the game, they would have won it pretty easily, to be honest. And they did dig themselves a hole to start, so that was tough. But it was one you could say, whoever lost this game, you could have said like that team should have won, but they lost. So because the Vikings did control most of the game, they had a huge lead and they outplayed them completely in the first half. So if they would have lost that game, and there was a bunch of they let them score on fourth down, let them convert a couple fourth downs, obviously that were huge. So Vikings would have lost. You would say like they should have won that game, but the Jets sit here with the loss, and they had their opportunities. You could say they should have won that game. So they did make big time plays, just not in the big time moments. The crucial situations, I suppose. But defense really stepped up in the second half. A lot of the game plan seemed to be to deal with Justin Jefferson was let's try to bully him a little. They were getting a little grabby. They were getting called earlier in this game, and they were kind of letting it go because they didn't want to keep calling it on the Jets. Probably it would have been ridiculous, so they kept calling it. But they were a little handsy with him. But Jefferson still had a decent game, obviously, and they had two. Yeah, we heard going into the game they're gonna have Sauce on him, but it was Reed and the safety over the top, a bracket basically for most of this game. So not what we kind of heard going into the game. Not really a surprise. Teams aren't just going to give away what they're going to do. And the Jets don't run a ton of man coverage either. So, but a pretty entertaining game at the end. And really what it was the Jets were getting field goals out of touchdowns, and that is why they lost the game. When the Vikings defense did make clutch plays and did stop them to field goals out of touchdowns, but they just give up so many big plays. There's so much space in that defense, obviously. But I didn't think this was one of Kirk's worst games, I thought, on the year. He was just off target. He was missing some throws by a decent amount. Even throws he completed, a lot of them were behind the receiver, the target, and they still made plays sometimes. So missed Hawkinson on a wide open touchdown. I thought Kirk was off in this game. He didn't turn the ball over, but it kind of was like more of a prime. Like he played well in prime time last week, surprisingly. So maybe this was more of the prime time Kirk a week later. I don't know. That's what I was saying during the game. Kind of funny, but Vikings continue to find a way. They're 10-2. Jets tough one, couldn't pull it out. Need a quarterback. I mean, Mike White played all right, but a couple turnovers, just not executing the red zone there. And when the Vikings blitz, that seemed to be a key to throw them off. They just didn't do enough of it. Commanders and Giants, 20-20 final. This was a big game for this division, not really for the division necessarily. I know it's a division rival game, and one's trying to get ahead of the other or stay ahead, but it's just the playoff. This is a huge game for playoff implications, and they tie 20-20. The way this game started, it felt like the Commanders were going to beat their ass. That's what I saw. It was 10-0 pretty early. Daniel Jones had a fumble at one point. I felt like every time I had this game on or I was watching this game, McLaurin was feasting there. Early on, I just felt like it was going to be like, all right, Commanders got this game. But then there was a stretch where it felt like, because the Giants came back and they were very much in the game or in control of the game, it felt like, the Giants almost have the edge in this one. It feels like they might win it. So, and they end up tying it. So you kind of split the difference there. But I thought Daniel Jones played a pretty decent game going against the Commanders' stout defense, red hot defense. I thought he played a pretty decent game. Threw the ball pretty well, ran the ball well. I guess they just came up a little bit short. I'm surprised OT went for the time, went the distance. I was very surprised about that. And they had a shot at the end, which people were kind of bringing up. The Richie James catch, the ball spot was a little bit off. They should have had a couple more yards, so that looked like maybe the refs missed on the spotting the ball. Somebody was saying there was an offsides miss. I went back and looked at that. For some reason, the other defenders were playing like so far off the line of scrimmage that it looked like one player was offsides, but he actually wasn't over the ball. So I'll disagree with people saying they missed that offsides based on what I saw. Just for some reason, the three other defensive linemen were playing like a full yard and a half, like off the line of scrimmage. So it made it look like somebody was offsides, yeah, I'm surprised the Commanders didn't call for like a delay of game on the defense there because they tried to swat the ball from Richie James. That was a little much, but I'm not really going to complain about it, but I was just a little surprised. And a lot of complaints about the officiating in this game, but it ends up being a tie. I'd say it's tough. I'm trying to figure out how do you win this game if you're either team. One team, it's easy for me to say why you didn't win, and that'd be the Commanders. and they had Heineke throw the ball too much. That's plain and simple to me. And they're a run first team. They're a control the clock type team. They did run the ball plenty of times. I kind of want to find the numbers. Exactly. I know they had Heineke throw 41 if I'm not mistaken. But I'm curious to see, because they ran the ball. I'm not going to sit here and say they needed to run the ball more. 36 times, and I was right. Heineke threw 41 times. Robinson 21 times. That's not a whole lot. And it's my point. Technically, they did need to run the ball more. But I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, they didn't have enough runs. I'm just going to sit here and say they had Heineke throw the ball too much. 41 times is too much. Just in general for the Commanders, any given Sunday, right? But you focus on the Giants, team that makes things difficult for the passing game. They blitz, a defense that makes big-time plays like clutch plays, but they struggle to stop the run. Commanders, you're a run-first team that your goal is to manage the time of possession, which I would like to see the numbers on that. They won by 11, almost 11 minutes. So they actually got that job done. But you had Heineke throw 41 times. You ran the ball 36. I think if they ran the ball more, Robinson averaged 4.6 yards per carry. Gibson 4.3. Curtis Samuel, I noticed. I saw all three of those runs, 7.7 average. I mean, they ran the ball plenty of times. I understand you want to be able to throw the ball, but I think if you tie the game, if you do it, you do it a little bit more, you win this game. Plain and simple. I know you dominated the time of possession and everything. I mean, you would have dominated a little bit more. Maybe you would avoid overtime. Maybe you win in overtime. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's a huge problem because they did run the ball a bit. But I think if they stuck to kind of the game plan, what is going to beat the Giants, what our game is a little bit more, and have Heineke throw a little bit less, I think they get the job done there. The Giants, on the other hand, is a little tricky because what could they have done differently to win the game? I don't know if there's really something obvious there. But because again, I thought Daniel Jones played. Did he have the best game ever? No, but I thought he played better than expected. They played a pretty good game. I guess they didn't get Saquon going a whole lot. Commanders got a good run defense. I know and I know people complaining about the officiating. I'm not gonna sit here and say they lost because of that, but maybe it wasn't fully on their side in this game. So it's tough to sit here and tell. And the way they started, actually, if you don't start like that, you don't get down 10-0, they probably win the game. So you starting maybe a little sloppy in a game like this, that would probably be it there. But the next game actually got flexed to Sunday Night Football. So they, was this the most entertaining game? Not really, but it was 2020. There's a lot of playoff implications. A lot will be on the line in the next game. So it should be pretty interesting. Titans and Eagles. I thought maybe there's an upset coming here. No, the Eagles beat the Titans' ass in this game. This is a statement game for the Philadelphia. We know they're good. We know the Philadelphia Eagles are a really good football team. Obviously, everybody knows that. So did they need this win for us to say, did they need an ass beating like this to say did they need to deliver an ass beating for us to say the Eagles are a good team? Absolutely not. But to me, it's a statement win because the Eagles, what I think, I guess this is opinion-based, but I think the matchup almost sides towards the Tennessee Titans. And even though they're beat up and even though maybe they lost last week and they're struggling a little bit right now, it's still a pretty decent team. On top of the matchup, remember the Eagles, they've struggling a little bit to stop the run recently, like especially those physical running games. There's Derrick Henry. And the Titans are so good, elite stopping the run. They'll take the run away from you. So those are things that, all right, maybe problems for the Eagles. Maybe this is a bad, they're better than the Titans, but maybe bad matchup, against a pretty good team. And for the Eagles to go work around those things, because the run game still got stopped. They couldn't really do anything, but to pass the ball to win and play a lot better defense than they've been playing and playing a lot better run defense. I mean, they shut down the Titans' run game, which has been happening recently for some reason, but in the offensive line, but to go out and do that and win in dominating fashion, that's a statement game for me for the Philadelphia Eagles, because there's a few more than a few really good teams out there, but if you get that wrong matchup, if they go by that wrong matchup, even if they're overall better than that team, like against the field, and that's it. They that wrong matchup did it. They can't play their game. They're done. They lost. They played the wrong team at the wrong time, whether it's playoffs or not. But you got the Eagles here, who, why I say it's a statement game, I think prove they can beat anybody, and they kind of proven that during the year. But they prove they can find. I think I heard a lot of people say that yesterday too, and this is exactly why people were saying that they can win in multiple ways, and it's exactly the same thing, because they find different way. They can find different ways to win. They can kind of overtake the matchup and just be the very good, maybe the best team that they are, best team in football that they are. So that's a big time win for the Eagles. A.J. Brown tore it up against his former team, and again, the Eagles didn't have much of a run game, which isn't really great, but that's what the Titans do, and the Eagles still find a way to put up 35 points. They made plays on defense. So Titans only scoring 10 points was shocking to me. Titans just didn't have enough. It's kind of the worry. That's like, Titans are a good team. I'm always on the Titans being a pretty good team, a dominant regular season team, but that was always kind of my knock in the playoffs and why I don't believe in them. Why did they fall short? Because teams kind of take away their best part of their game in the playoffs, and those big games, they're able to game plan for it, and the Titans can't find other ways to win, and it kind of shows up in a big game like this. Like, they take away the run game of Derrick Henry, and they just can't really do anything else. And they finished with 10 points in a game you would expect them to score a little bit more. So that's the tough part of the Titans. Burks getting hurt was very tough because they're out of receivers then. And, they need more receivers. They're really ignoring that. Letting A.J. Brown go was stupid at the time too, but and Burks looks somewhat promising, I suppose, but it's just tough. And then a game like this, you start to realize things from the Titans, like playing a really good team 2 weeks in a row, not only losing, getting your ass beat, you start to kind of realize more things with the Titans. Like, they haven't beat any good teams this year. They played the Chiefs pretty tough without Tannehill. That was impressive. They still lost the game. They haven't beat any good teams. They're pretty damn one-dimensional. And you look at the AFC South, what the AFC South is doing this year, it's like, all right, the Titans almost have like 6 free wins, like with the AFC South this year. So Titans are a tough physical team to play. They'll probably put up more fights in this against better fights in this, or maybe win against good teams going forward, but it's hard to fully invest in them, for those reasons. So it was a tough one for them here in this one. They are pretty beat up. There are a lot of teams very beat up, though. I mean, the Eagles were the healthiest team all year, but they're starting to feel it a little bit too. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, so this is a tough year for injuries, but Titans, obviously Danico Autry, missing him last couple games has been pretty big, but tough one for them. Broncos, Ravens, pretty boring game, but I guess pretty entertaining at the end. The Ravens go and score with 28 seconds, or maybe that's a little less than it was, 30s, whatever seconds, and win the game by 1 point, 10-9 win. Lamar goes down, obviously. They were struggling, though. It was early. It was a small sample size from Lamar, but he was holding on to the ball a little too long, and they couldn't really get anything going with him either. So I don't know if it was going to be a whole lot different. I think they scored more points. I think they scored maybe one more time, maybe get another field goal. Maybe. That's a maybe. But I still think there's issues with the Ravens offense. Huntley came in, he wasn't great. Was maybe wanting to run more than Lamar, but he goes and has that game-winning drive, of course. I just don't get why the Ravens had, I got to look up the numbers exactly here, but Huntley, I think they had Huntley throw the ball too many times here. And my phone's just been blowing up this whole recording session here. So, but where are the numbers exactly? I know, based on what I watched, they had the ball. Not as much as I thought, but they had Huntley throw 32 times. He was actually 27 for 32. But 32 times, you only throw for 187 yards. But I think that's just too much, though. They threw 32 times. They ran 28, and a lot of those is Huntley scrambling. Obviously, 10 carries. A lot of those are scrambling. So, look at Kenyon Drake. 7 carries. Yeah, I knew it was low. I didn't think it was that bad. 7 carries. Gus Edwards couldn't really get anywhere. 6 carries for 12 yards. So that could be a reason for not running as much. But I think Drake's been pretty decent for them. He's had some big games when he's got the opportunity. Sometimes running backs just got to get going. 7 carries for 29 yards, 4.1 average. That's pretty good average. Your backup quarterback has to come in. I know they trust him. I know Huntley's a very good backup quarterback, but to only have Drake, playing the Broncos, playing the Broncos, like I think you can run the ball. I mean, the Panthers showed you could run the ball in the Broncos defense. It's kind of difficult to throw on them. I just don't understand only having your running back, specifically Drake, only take that amount of carries and have Huntley throw 32 times. I think you made it a lot more difficult on your backup quarterback and yourselves here in this game. So I'm not thrilled about the play choices there, and they made it a lot more difficult, but they found a way to win. Defense has been playing pretty well. It just seems like they're way more of a defensive team lately. They did play maybe the worst offensive football right now, the Broncos. So, and they played the Panthers a couple weeks ago. I mean, the Lions just shut down the Jags offense last week. So I guess the defense is definitely getting better. It's a strength of this team right now, but I don't know if we can make a firm statement on that defense right now, but they helped them win this game. The Broncos defense did everything they can to win this game once again. Justin Simmons, had a monster game, I thought, and 2 takeaways. When they tried to have Prochet going back to Ravens throw the ball as well, it's like just run the ball to Drake. But just tough one for the Broncos defense. I mean, good one, but tough because it's like we did everything possible to beat the Baltimore Ravens, and the offense didn't get the job done. So I'm really sick of going over it. It's just kind of the same old story that the Broncos just didn't have enough offensively. Russ couldn't cook. They actually could run the ball against the Panthers. They just went away from it, I guess, because they were losing. But just not enough. I thought Dulcich was decent for the Broncos, but it's been a tough one for the Broncos. Like I don't know what they're going to do with that offense, but Ravens find a way. Browns and Texans. The Browns scored 27 points, but they didn't score a single offensive touchdown against the Houston Texans in this one. So they got a punt return touchdown, a Denzel Ward scoop and score. I don't know what the hell that was from the Texans, like a freebie scoop and score near the goal line. And then they got a pick 6 as well. I still don't understand going to Kyle Allen. I still don't understand that from the Texans. I think Davis Mills maybe could have won this game, but I know Davis Mills isn't the answer. Like you're gonna draft one, but it doesn't mean you have to bench him. I don't know. That's me, maybe. Oh, yeah, Watson, definitely rusty. Interception in the back of the end zone. Was just over 50% completion. Couldn't find the end zone. I want to see the amount of runs. I thought the Browns would run the ball more. 17 times for Chubb. I mean, they could have scored on offense. They ran the ball more. But Watson only threw 22 times, too. There's not enough plays, I guess. They're going to play the red-hot Bengals next, who they dealt with, the Browns, that is, pretty easily last time they played them, which wasn't that long ago. But maybe someone knocking the rust off for Watson here, but the offensive outing wasn't pretty, despite scoring 27 total points, but that wasn't because of offense. Texans, for a little, even though the score says they lost by 13, they could have won this game. They could have been in this game. Just too many crucial mistakes, which kind of been the storyline all year. I just don't really notice it, or isn't that impactful right now because it's like, all right, we're going to go get that first overall pick. But, Pierce ran pretty well. They probably could have ran him more because remember, they were in this game, or it looked like they were going to win this game for at least a little bit of it, and Pierce could have ran the ball a little bit more. They're 18 for 73, pretty good outing, but not really. I knew there would be rust for Deshaun Watson, but I didn't expect him not to score on offense in this game. Seahawks and Rams. Seahawks, it takes a final drive of the game. I know they had to go play a little bit more defense after that, but to win the game, it takes a final drive, and they do it. They pull it off 27-23. I know the Rams are down to Walford, and their offensive line's really beat up. They got guys that weren't on the roster to start the year, obviously, or even during the year. Aaron Donald's out, so Seahawks should handle this one a lot more comfortably. Shouldn't really take the final drive of the game. It's a weird one, too, because, if you look at if you watch this game and you remember like the big plays that happened, I know Bobby Wagner had a big play, which I thought maybe he was down there on that one. But anyways, I know that was a big play for the Rams on defense. But, I mean, Geno Smith was making throws. Metcalf and Lockett were going off. I guess Kenneth Walker getting hurt because he only had like 3 carries before he got hurt, but he pretty productive for those 3 carries. So I guess that was tough, and DJ Dallas was dealing with an injury. But again, the ability to be explosive, the big plays you can make, with Geno, DK, Lockett, the big plays they were making. I mean, the stats will probably back it up as well. I don't really need the stats. They were very productive, very, very productive. And you got the Rams over there with Walford, who's pretty bad. I mean, he was scrambling for his life. I think he had 2 turnovers. With the interception at end was, I don't know where that was to, but Akers was okay, but there's just not enough on offense. But you factor all that in, and it took the Seahawks one more drive to go do it. It's a little weird. You see all that production from the Seahawks on offense, but they didn't. I know they finished with 27, but it wasn't a whole lot of scoring. Before they had 20, obviously, but it was slower game. It's just a little weird. I don't know. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but I thought that was a little odd. That it was that difficult for the Seahawks, and they didn't have more offense, and they didn't, have more of a margin of victory, or it took to the last drive. I think I already said that, but so that was a little interesting. So the Seahawks, they come back down to earth the last few weeks. I still think Geno playing pretty well. Offense is still more explosive than we thought it was going to be for sure going into the year, way more. But they haven't been great the last few outings we've seen from them. The Rams, they had it. Not that it really matters for them. It's almost like the towel's been thrown for the Rams. It's just weird. They fresh off winning the Super Bowl. But, I don't have much else on that game like that. Dolphins and 49ers. Tough one for Tua. Tough outing for him. I keep going on rants about teams not running the ball enough, but the Dolphins, this one's on Mike McDaniel. He really didn't run the ball enough. I want to say 8 times, top of my head. Let me see. I always like quizzing myself on these. 8 times. Mostert, 7 for 30. Jeff Wilson, 1 for 3. 2 running backs against their former team, the 49ers. But the Niners got a stout defense. Best in football, right? Best run defense. Them and the Titans. So I guess they were a little afraid about that, to run the football. The Dolphins are a pass-first team. They want to pass. It's been working out for them. But, Tua didn't have a good game, but I think they made things tougher for Tua. I know they were down in this game, but they weren't down as much as the final score show. It's not like they couldn't run the ball anymore. And it's not like the Niners are only a good run defense and you have to throw against them. No, they're very good at getting pressure, taking the ball away. They're very good They're equally as good of a pass defense, So I don't really agree with making yourself one-dimensional. There's some teams that are one-dimensional because that's what they are. They're one-dimensional. Either they can't throw the ball or they can't run the ball because they're not built for that, or their quarterback has one strength or things like that. It's not the Dolphins. The Dolphins should be able to run the football. So making yourself predictable, making yourself one-dimensional, making it harder on your quarterback is not ideal. And the quarterback had a pretty bad game, and I'm not going to not put any blame on Tua because some of the throws he was making, he's got to hit those throws, actually. Some of them are simple, too. Should be simple. They've been routine for him this year, so he's got to play a lot better. But I do think things were made tougher on him because of his play caller and because of the 49ers defense being so damn good as well. But just not running the ball more is mind-blowing. I'm not that shocked about it, but it's pretty mind-blowing at the same time. But 2 interceptions for Tua. Was off on some throws there. Injury, sounds like he's going to be fine. But once they let Tyreek Hill go loose down the field, they were starting to get some things going. They got back in the game. But, Jimmy Garoppolo goes down very early. He attempted 4 passes, and Brock Purdy has to come in, who struggled, his last couple years at Iowa State, looked really good his true freshman year, and then was the last pick of the draft. He has to come in a huge game, the game of the week, red hot Dolphins, red hot Niners, too. It feels like powerhouses in football, or at least close. You'd think, Dolphins versus Purdy, Dolphins should be able to handle business, and they don't. and the Niners controlled pretty much all of this game and end it in dominating fashion, even though it was closer in this. It was closer in this for most of the game, but at the same time, like the Niners did completely outplay them, so it's not like they weren't deserving of winning 33-17 at all. Like they completely outplayed them, but the defense is just so good. And Purdy played pretty well. I mean, that Shanahan system definitely helps, but he played pretty well for getting thrown in that situation. And McCaffrey played very well. Look at Mason had to come in. He was pretty productive. McCaffrey ended up being the leading receiver as well for them. So, yeah, monster game. Debo was great after contact, of course, continuing to get drives going. So that's a statement win for the 49ers, but it's kind of a negative day at the same time because Garoppolo was playing very well for them, actually, especially recently, and he's got that experience. And I was calling the Niners the favorite to come out for some weeks now to come out of the NFC. I was just, with them, with their experience and their ability to play defense, and they're playing, Garoppolo's playing maybe the best he's played, and their ability to be just a problem for teams, to out physical teams, to be a tough matchup for teams, and again, going back to the experience, there's some good teams at the top of the NFC. I was pretty damn confident with 49ers, so them losing Garoppolo is tough. And Purdy looked pretty good, but is he going to go get them the Super Bowl? It's tough. It's tough. So they lose Lance, they lose Garoppolo. It's tough. The injuries have been killing the Niners over the last how many years, so it's kind of a negative, even though it was a big-time win and defense looks insane. Dolphins, yeah, I mean, it's tough because they haven't really been – because they haven't been playing – very many good defenses, and when they do, it's last time they played one was the Steelers, and they kind of got shut down there in the second half. Tua didn't play the best of his game either, so in a game like this happens, and it makes people realize it's a very good offense, but when they play really good defenses, is it a problem? Can they find a way? This is stuff like this matters for like the playoffs because this is a good team, but they got to run the ball more. They got to realize that Tua's got to play better, obviously, but they signed Eric Fisher a couple hours ago, so maybe that could help them here too. But it was a tough one for the Dolphins. Really, Garoppolo goes down early in this game. Purdy comes in. The Dolphins should find a way to win this game. They do not. Chiefs and Bengals, a wild one here. The way it started, it felt like the Bengals had control. I mean, they looked like the team to beat here. They looked like they were going to control the game. But, I mean, you had to know the Chiefs were going to adjust. And they do adjust. They make some stops on defense. They're playing better on defense. Offense is moving the ball like they do. And it was starting to feel like there was a part of this game. It was kind of late in the game, not super late, but where I'm like, like the Bengals are good. They're good. They're putting up a fight. They've been very impressive. They're back, but I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. That's kind of what my head was. But the Kelsey fumble was so massive, a massive play by Jermaine Pratt. Underrated player for the Bengals. When you see Kelsey fumble like that too, so that was such a swing, and there was other huge plays obviously, but that was such a major swing in this game because the Chiefs were on their way, and they were at midfield, they were past it, but they were moving the ball at that point. They were on their way to go up by possibly, but I'm confident, up 2 scores, and that play changed everything. It gave them the momentum. The Bengals went down there and scored. The Chiefs had other opportunities for sure, both sides of the ball, and did not execute. But that was you can feel the swing in that game at the time, and then later in the game, it was such a major swing. And then Butker misses that kick, which was massive, which I don't think that kick was enough anyways, and they needed to score a touchdown there, but yeah, and the Bengals go down and they have opportunities to stop them. They had a real opportunity, a third down. They get it out to Chase in the flat, and it looked like the Chiefs had 3 defenders around him, and he got around them and made a diving effort for the first down. So that was massive. That's one I expect the Chiefs to make that play. And then they get a sack, bad mistake by the Bengals there, and a 3rd and 11, and it was tight coverage, but to allow Burrow to get that throw and allow him to have that. It wasn't a lot of time. It was kind of 3-step drop and throw, but maybe 3-step and another second throw. But to just allow that, not good. Like the Chiefs had a stretch of this game where it's like the Chiefs can play defense. They can adjust. They're not a bad defense, but that last drive, there was some bad defense there. So, and again, nobody getting like absolutely cooked, but it's just plays you got to make there. So then the Bengals were able to kneel on that. So just massive clutch plays from the Bengals throughout this game. Burrow played. The offensive line was pretty solid. You know, were they perfect? Absolutely not. But I mean, there was times where Chiefs dialed up blitzes that they usually get home on against good offensive lines. I thought the Bengals did way better than expected. You know, way better than expected. You know, not that it was great, but it's way better than expected. So Bengals are getting better at the right time. Kind of reminds me of last year a little bit. Remember, they ended up going to the Super Bowl last year. So could they do it again? The Chiefs seems like they have a problem with the Bengals. I'm not going to panic for the Chiefs whatsoever. If they played the Bengals again, I think it'd be in the playoffs. I think it'd be a good game. I think Vegas would have the Chiefs as a favorite, even though they cannot beat the Bengals right now. But I always think I've actually seen it. I've said it over the last couple of years. I think the Chiefs save some stuff. They're smart about it. They save a little bit. I mean, an example, I'm looking up more stats, but they didn't have Mahomes throw the ball or they didn't have Mahomes throw the ball the amount they would in like a playoff game against the Bengals. He threw the ball 27 times. That's not enough to go get as many points as you can possibly get. You know, I guess they didn't have a whole lot of plays, but you know, Kelsey normally doesn't fumble in that situation, obviously. So there's definitely no reason to be like, the Chiefs, are they going to be able to beat the powerhouse teams in the playoffs? No, we're not going to sit here and say that at all. That wasn't really playoff Chiefs out there this game. The game they wanted to win, they tried to win. They, in their eyes, and I probably agree with them, they should have won, but they couldn't execute. So that's not great, but I don't think anybody's panicking really. There's probably some people out there that are like, they can't see the Bengals in the playoffs because they're going to lose. Like, I'm not going to guarantee they're going to win, but it's like, it's not, we're not at that stage with me at least. But the Bengals, again, I love where they're at. They continue to win. They're playing a lot better football, a lot smarter football. It reminds me a little bit of last year, like I said. It's great news. Chargers and Raiders. The Raiders win another one. That's 3 straight. Win 27-20 against their rival. They're starting to figure some things out. Started a little slow in this one, which isn't great, but to be able to bounce back from that is fantastic. They were down 10-0 pretty early, and I was thinking the Chargers probably got this one because I said it, during the week, like if I picked the Chargers in a close one, but I said I could see the Raiders winning because if they just stay in this game and they run Josh Jacobs, because the Chargers' run defense is so bad, and the Raiders are going to win this game. But that's the positive here for the Raiders, because it's a negative to start bad and get down 10-0, but to be able to stick with the run game, like not take it away because it's just 10-0, and be able to come back and get the run game going more. A lot of teams can't do that, so that's big time there. So Chargers, that's kind of perfect situation to be up 10-0 on a team that the way that they're going to win is run the ball, and to be able to blow that, it's not good. I know the Chargers been a lot of teams been beat up. Chargers been very beat up this year, but still no excuses here. They didn't do enough to improve this run game. I said it. People try to tell me I was wrong. This run defense is just so damn bad. It's just so bad, and I know they're missing some guys, but it's a problem, and there's all kinds of problems. The Chargers are actually more of a mess than people realize. They just rely on Herbert. He's a great quarterback, but just rely on Herbert going Superman, like going absolutely bonkers. It's just what they rely on. Like that 4th and 12 to Keenan Allen, like that kept you in the game. Like you stay in the game because of that, but you're just relying on too many of those happen. You're probably not running the ball. It's not what this offense is really built for, is running the ball a million times, but they're probably not running it enough. They were playing from behind, so I'm not going to sit here and say that they lost because they didn't run the ball enough, but they need to make themselves a little more balanced. They need a receiver way more than I know Mike Williams. I know they've dealt with injuries all year, but they need a young separator here. They need it more than people realize. I think they're just, Staley could be done after this, and he could have the excuse of being. They're probably the most beat up team. Some really beat up teams, but for most this year, I don't know who technically is the most beat up team right this second, but for a majority of this year, they were probably missing the most guys. But again, a lot of guys. It's just football. A lot of teams are. So maybe he has that excuse, but I just don't think this team is. There's some moments where it's like, wow, great call by the coach. Like there's some of those moments that pop up. But it's not as poorly coached as it was before. Which Lynn and that staff, probably deserve some credit for the rapid progression of Justin Herbert. A little off topic, but and the playbook was good, or the play calling wasn't good then. I've talked about this back then, but they need a new staff in there. I think things just aren't right. They got talent, but they need to be better. They need to be better in every category. I mean, I'm not saying they need a better quarterback, anything like that, but they just got to be better all around, and they got to be healthier too. But it's a tough one. Yeah, the Raiders, again, I love that they bounced back from being down 10-0 early. Love that they stuck to the game plan, got Josh Jacobs going, who's been an absolute monster. And they made some mistakes early, so I guess that dug them a little bit of a hole. But and the Chargers, I forgot, they actually had a pick 6 early too. So the Chargers are just relying on too many things happening in this game, or in any game really. But that flea flicker looks to be a McDaniel special, a Raiders special this year. But Devontae Adams, monster game. He's been having a monster season. A little slow at first. People are like, Adams without Rodgers not good. He's been pretty damn good recently. So it's good to see the Raiders turn things around there. That's a big time win. So they're in like the Chargers. What's the word I'm looking for? Like area of the league on where they're at right now, I guess. And the Raiders are playing better ball recently. So, I mean, even last week, it took the Chargers the last drive of the game to win. They just rely on Herbert being as clutch as he can be, which is pretty damn good, but just relying on too much. I don't know. And then Sunday Night Football, 5 turnovers for the Colts. That'll do it. I mean, the Colts were actually in this game. I'm sitting here saying, like, wow, like, what's with the Cowboys right now? The Colts in this game. They're in it against the Eagles too. Like maybe they're figuring some things out, but then you go and turn the ball over 5 times. And that'll be the difference. That's the reason why I had the Cowboys winning big, not this big, but was because it's just a bad matchup with their pass rush ability to create plays. So that kind of ended up happening just in different fashion. I didn't think the Colts were going to be in that game and all of a sudden just out of it by that much. I didn't think it was going to go down like that at all either way. But Cowboys just got those big time playmakers. They got those big-time pass rushes to put pressure on Matt Ryan, make those plays. Malik Hooker against his former team there, who's always been good. His health has been the big question there with him. But Dak threw the ball like 30 times, I think 30 exactly, maybe a little underwhelming what he was able to do. Not that he had a bad game, but they ran the ball extremely well. For both Pollard and Zeke, it's not really surprising. Like those guys run the ball well. The Cowboys run the ball well, but Colts got a pretty decent defense. They don't usually let teams running backs run like that on them. For those guys to get out there and run all over them like that, which is a credit to the offensive line. They were creating some big time holes. Tyler Smith's been good for them, obviously. But yeah, they won with defense creating turnovers and the running game, obviously. So put up a big 54. That's impressive. That's the big. We're kind of getting that time of the year where you start to think playoffs. You got playoffs in your mind. The Cowboys, they put some dominant performances out there this year, and they showed they can win in multiple ways, which I love. From teams when talking about the playoffs. Like you can win with the pass game, you can win with the run game, you can win with defense, getting sacks, pressure on the quarterback, getting their hands on the ball in the secondary, or then the guys in the pass rush, they're taking the ball away as well. They can win with pretty much any phase. They've played a lot better than expected, even though we knew they were a pretty good team. So that's good for the playoffs. But every time the Cowboys, like last year, I believe in the Cowboys, and they just didn't look like the same team at all in that playoff game. Like underwhelming offensively, no explosiveness. Defense didn't look quite as good. It wasn't bad, not nowhere near bad, but so if they get to the playoffs again this year, which they will, it feels different this year, but is it going to be the same thing? Are they kind of going to shut down, like not be their regular season selves? We'll have to wait and see, but it's one of those teams that I want to believe in. I definitely want to, and they have the pieces, they have the formula, to make more than just a run in the playoffs. So I'm curious to see what they're able to do, and because we already know what they're about. Like they're a really good team. They're going to be in the playoffs. They look like one of the better NFC teams. It's a little more open with Garoppolo getting injured as well. we know what they're about. We want to see what we don't know. That's what we want to see. So just teams like that make me excited for the playoffs because I want to learn more. I want to learn more about these teams. It's going to wrap it up for the Week 13 recap here every Monday with this video. We're always talking with you guys on Twitter, so check us out there. Link pinned in the comments for that and anything else you're looking for, sponsors. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Full NFL coverage here. We'll definitely have more, maybe some off-season type content coming out over the next few weeks, and this week perhaps. We're kind of getting close to that draft season as well. College football kind of coming to the end, so we got you guys covered. We always got you covered. So join us. We much appreciate it. Thanks for watching this video. It's going to do it. Goodbye.